This video is on density. Density was determined a long time ago by a guy whose last name was Archimedes. Archimedes had to determine if the crown his king bought was truly gold. He did this without destroying the crown. Archimedes had to determine if the crown's king was gold or not by looking at its density. He knew that the density of gold was different than the density of other precious materials that could also be used to make a crown. His king wanted to make sure that his was made out of gold. So, to not damage the crown, he used water displacement and mass to determine the density. Density is an intensive property that depends only on the type of the substance, not on the amount of the sample. Density is the mass of an object divided by its volume. The units on density are grams over milliliters or grams over centimeters cubed. This means that a milliliter equals a centimeter cubed. Volume can be measured by water displacement or by our formula of length times width times height if we have a regularly shaped object. Water displacement works as follows. I have a graduated cylinder and a metal object. I'm going to take my graduated cylinder and fill it to a certain amount, let's say in this case it's 20 milliliters of water. I'm going to place my object into the graduated cylinder. When I place my object into the graduated cylinder, the water rises. Let's say it goes up to 50 milliliters. That means that my object caused the water to rise a difference of 30 milliliters. And that means that my volume of my object was 30 milliliters. So this is water displacement. The same thing can happen if you get into a bathtub. You cause the water level to rise. The other way to calculate volume is using the length times the width times the height, or another mathematical equation if you have a different shaped object, such as a cylinder. These we want to measure in centimeters, the width in centimeters, and the height in centimeters, so that way we end up with a volume of centimeters cubed. Once we know an object's density, we can look at different properties that the substance has because of their density. To float a substance, the density must be less than the density of the liquid you're trying to float it on. Density of a substance usually decreases when the temperature increases. This is true in all cases except for water. Therefore, the density of water is less when its temperature increases. This is why, in a glass of water, my water's on the bottom and my ice cubes float. Ice cubes float because they're less dense than the water that they're in. So that's the only case where a solid can float on its coordinating liquid.